Okay. So let's talk about it. This week I went to Chicago. I went to Chicago on Thursday. I flew out in the morning. Not a long flight, but I haven't flown in like 8 years. So I really want to go to Peru. This is what started this whole thing. I really want to go to Peru. I've been waiting and waiting, like thinking that, maybe I'm going to find a partner or maybe I'm going to find somebody to go with me. And I decided that I need to just suck it up and not be waiting for somebody else to do things for me in my life and not be waiting for somebody to come along and save me and just do whatever I want to do. And I realized when I was booking this trip to Chicago, because I was like, oh, I'm going to increase my capacity in small doses to just kind of see where I'm at. I haven't flown in like 8 years. I've never traveled really by myself. The last time I flew, I was in college and I went on a study abroad trip to Ireland. So there was like 30 other people with me. So I realized when I was booking this trip that I'm kind of afraid of solo travel and and kind of afraid of planes. And I'm not even really afraid of flying so much as just all of the hustle and bustle of the airport and being around a lot of people that I don't know. And I realized that I had this fear. There's still this fear of like somebody's gonna get me, like somebody's gonna kidnap me, or like something's gonna, I don't know. I'm gonna meet some impending doom in an unfamiliar place. Um, yeah. So I flew out on Thursday morning. Totally fine. And then I was kind of scared because it's 9/11. So I'm like, I'm flying on 9/11, which is not, which that I was like, I don't think about that too much because that could be a little bit scary. Anyway, I'm on the plane and like right before the plane is about to take off, I'm like, I gotta get off this plane. Like I literally had this thought in my head of like, stop the bus. Like those people on TV that are like, stop the bus. And I thought about saying something like that, like, stop the plane. And then I was like, they're not gonna fucking stop it. We're like literally about to take off. They're not gonna stop this fucking plane. So I didn't do it. But I was really scared, and you can't smoke cigarettes on planes or anything. So I was like just chewing gum and like really nervous, fine, whatever. I make it through. It's like an hour long flight. Like it's not even long. Get there, it's smooth sailing, not even a big deal. And then and I was like fine. I didn't check any of my bags, so I was like, okay, I'll just get an Uber. I've never Ubered before. I'm like, okay, I grew up for context. I grew up in a small town, Devils Lake, North Dakota, like 10,000 people. And I now live in a small town in Wisconsin, which is like 10,000 people. Okay, so anytime I go to the city, it's like kind of overwhelming. Even the driving is a lot for me. I used to like not freak out panic attack style, but I would get really sweaty and like and like have to really like be in the moment and talk myself through even just driving. I would just have to stay in the middle if there's multiple lanes and like a whole it was a whole situation for me in my nervous system. And this is where I'm at in my healing journey in terms of nervous system regulation and trying to expand my capacity for things that are uncomfortable to me or unfamiliar to me and like just so I can be able to do whatever I want in my life without having to like psych myself up for it and like trick myself into doing things. But this is just where we're at. But anyway, never gotten an Uber before. Get an Uber. Couldn't really, first of all, I couldn't really get out of the airport. I got out of the airport, but then I didn't realize that there was like multiple levels. So I was like on the lower level. My Uber lady couldn't find me. So she left me there. Then I realized I saw some other people going upstairs. I'm like, hmm. And then I go up there and I'm like, this is where people pick you up for the Uber. So I'm like, okay, this other guy picks me up. His name's Turgai, but it's spelled Turgay. And I said, how do you say that? And he said Turgai, but you can call me Turgay if you want. And I was like, bet. And then it took me like 2 hours just to get to the hotel because of Chicago traffic, whatever. Get to the hotel, go up in there. It's not the right hotel. So I have to walk like 15, 20 minutes away. Not a big deal. I'm already like I'm like, okay, like at that point I was fine. Regulation station, like fine, like okay, I can be okay with having like meeting resistance and having to adapt, and that's fine. Go to the other hotel. Okay, cool. Check in, get my shit upstairs. I really wanted a hot dog. I had like time that night, Thursday night, and then Friday night, I was going to a veterinary convention. I work as a veterinary technician, which is like a nurse for animals, if you don't know that. And you have to, in order to maintain your license, you have to have a certain level of, a certain number of community, not community, continuing education credits every couple of years. So going to conventions is a great way of doing that because you can just bust them all out in a couple of days time frame. I was only going for Thursday, stay the night, Friday, fly back Friday night because I was like, boom, boom, boom. We're just going to do a quick short trip. We're going to test the waters here on the solo travel situation. We're going to see just like where we're at and my ability to like navigate things on my own. And I really want a hot dog. I was like, you got my friend Christy told me, you got to get a hot dog, you got to get pizza, you got to see a comedy show, like all the Chicago things. So get all my stuff upstairs, go back down, go to get a hot dog. I go to get a hot dog, and this is like where I'm realizing that, okay, obviously, intellectually, I can know that Chicago is a big city, but physically in my body, like anytime I'm in a big city, I feel, and I'm by myself, I feel hyper vigilant. I just do. I don't feel safe there. It's not something that's familiar to me. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing or where I'm going. I didn't even have like an itinerary or plan. I just was like, these are the things that I want. Go to get a hot dog. In the hot dog place, as I'm in there, a guy comes in and this is like just how privileged I am. Like being from a small town and living in a small town. I'm not used to seeing homeless people, and I'm not used to people like asking you for money. And this guy came in with some coins in a cup and starts like jingling it and asking everybody in the shop for money. And then the shop people are like, you can't solicit here, like please leave, blah, blah, blah. And it took a little bit, and then he eventually left. And then I get my food, and then I go sit outside on the patio. About like 5 minutes later, as I'm eating, the guy comes up again and starts like jingling his cup directly in my face and like sits down at my table with me and is like jingling the cup at me. And I was like, oh, no, thank you. Like, I don't know what to do in those types of situations. And it definitely activated my nervous system because I was like, ah. And whatever, he eventually leaves. Then, as I'm walking around after a little while, I see this guy. I don't even know what he's doing. I don't even know what he's doing, but he's standing there and he's just like talking, just kind of loudly, not really directly to anybody. I didn't have any pepper spray because I went on a plane. Normally I have um, a stun gun, but you can't bring that on a plane. You can't even bring a little knife on a plane for, obvious reasons. Anyway, I'm walking by this guy that's talking loudly to apparently nobody. And I must have made eye contact with him for too long because he looks at me and he starts saying, like, hey, baby, I need a hug. I need some loving. Come over here and give me a hug. And I'm like, I'm not used to people being like that to me. I mean, it's happened to me before, obviously, like when I've gotten to other cities and stuff, but especially like men. And it to some degree bothers me that I still have this thing where like if I'm being bothered, if I happen upon a man that seems like he wants something from me, my nervous system goes into freeze mode still. Like, and I used to have a lot of shame about this happening, but now I've just accepted that this is one of those things that I'm going to be working on for the rest of my life. This is like, not only is it a complex trauma thing for me, but it's also a conditioning thing for me. When I grew up, my older brother is 2 years older than me, and it was very much like, don't make him angry because he will regret it, and just do whatever he wants. And we're always playing whatever game he wants to play. And if you win, he will throw the fucking controller. Like, like fucking I'm used. I guess I wouldn't say I'm used to it, but I'm familiar with men being a fucking ticking time bomb and having to like walk on eggshells around that. Anyway, after this occurrence, I'm like, holy fuck, like, like I couldn't handle it. And I still like, and I could feel, and I was thinking about writing a blog post about this, but I'm trying to articulate exactly like what I was feeling in my body. Like it feels like my brain is on fire and I can feel it like down my spinal cord. And it's like a dull kind of like pulsing sensation. And I'm so glad that I'm aware of this now. And I'm aware that this happens to me now because I used to exist this way fully all the time. You know, I grew up in survival mode. I grew up with complex trauma, like living this way every day. And the more that I learn about energy work and grounding and healing your nervous system and regulating your nervous system, I realize that like, wow, the way that I was existing for a long time is not like shouldn't be the default. And I'm grateful that I'm aware of that and that I also am aware that there are tools that I can develop and practices that I can put in place to bring myself back down and regulate and ground. Now, unfortunately, in this situation, I wasn't really able to do that. My number one things are like to go into nature. And like I like being in my apartment. Like I like coming back to a safe space. And so that night I didn't really do anything. You know, my big night in the city in Chicago, I went and got a fucking giant piece of cheesecake from the Cheesecake Factory and I went back to my room and I binge watched the second season of Severance, which is great. I'm only on like episode 5, so don't give me any spoilers. And I don't feel any guilt or shame about doing that. I don't feel any guilt or shame that I'm like this. I'm I didn't I gravely underestimated how this solo trip might have affected me. I didn't really know how it was going to affect me, but I don't feel bad about it and I don't feel sad and I'm not like down on myself, which is a huge deal because in terms of healing, when I started when I started this journey, I had this, um, it sounds so naive now, but I had this idea that I'm going to reach a place where I'm going to be fully healed, totally like equanimous and like not have anything bother me ever and like be able to experience a trigger and just notice it and like continue on with my life and not have to do anything to bring myself back to a regulated state. It would just be like, oh, okay, and then like move on. I don't know that that's ever going to be possible. I think that's an extremely idealistic uh view to have. Like maybe, but I don't know. I don't think I will get to a place where nothing ever bothers me and I'm not triggered ever. And it's very interesting to think about um the different components of healing, like physiologically, the nervous system and how it works, but then also mentally, how that works, and then energetically and emotionally, and how all of these things are interconnected. And I'm becoming increasingly more aware of how important it is to take really good care of my body in these situations, getting really good sleep, making sure I'm eating well, taking care of myself. Because for a long time, I existed in just a perpetual state of chaos, a perpetual state of chaos. I drank. I didn't feel my feelings. I didn't, um, connect things or reflect on my childhood. I think I've always been pretty self-aware, but for a very long time, I didn't know what to do with that. I wonder if I have any chapstick. And I ran from the pain and I didn't process things. Oh, wait, hold on. Oh, boy. Okay. And and then the next day, Friday, I woke up super duper early. I walked to the other hotel that the conference was at because I didn't want to stay at the hotel that the conference was at because it was really expensive. It's downtown Chicago. It's fucking downtown Chicago, like you can see native here from where I stayed, so it was pretty spendy. But even to stay at the other hotel, even with the discounts and whatever, was expensive too. And I'm kind of a bit of a I like to be economical when I'm up there. So use whatever you can until it's worn out, basically. And so I walked there. I did the whole thing. I learned so much. I learned so much. I did pretty much all of my CE was like surgery and anesthesia. But then it gets to a point where your like mind is burnt out. And that kind of on top of my like physiological like brain thing that was going on was not great. Um, and I really wanted to get some pizza, and I really like the last couple sessions that they were having didn't really interest me. So I was like, okay, last night I stayed in my hotel. Like t today I'm gonna go out and about on the town. And so I just didn't know what to do. And when my brain is so already dysregulated like that, it takes days sometimes after an event for me to come back down and not being able to come back to my space, where I know that this is like my spot in my little area was difficult. And I didn't realize how important that is for me to have. I have a couple of friends that do like NLP practitioner, neuro-linguistic programming, and stuff like that. And one of my friends recently has been talking a lot about anchoring. And I think I'm going to try that because being out and about in a different place, I wasn't able to come back down. And there wasn't like it's not like where I live in rural Wisconsin where you can just go. There's parks everywhere and you can just literally like disappear into the forest and scream if you want to because there's not really many people around. It's not like that in Chicago. And so, if anything, too, I'm super grateful for where I live. And I've learned that, small town living is not for everybody, but it is for me. I'm like not a city hoe, okay? And golly, so I wasn't able to get back down to a level where I was actually feeling regulated. And so even like the time on Friday night that I was like out and about on the city, I even wanted to like find somewhere to smoke a cigarette because I was like maybe that will help me boom 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 like ground. But I couldn't find anywhere that like felt safe for me to do that. I didn't even want to like put my back up against a wall somewhere because I like had this fear that like somebody's gonna come get me. And whatever, man. And honestly, even the experiences that caused me to react that way, like back into freeze mode and stuff, I'm grateful for that because it gives me a gauge. Like it shows me where I'm at with that, with my capacity. And I went really, really into going into this trip. I was like, yeah, like I can do anything and I don't need to be accommodated and I can just experience the world the way that the world is. And I don't need to change anything or I don't need anything to be any sort of way for me to be the way that I want to be. Like I can maintain my internal peace no matter what is happening. And now I'm like, yes, that can be true, but what is also true for me is I need to have a grounding point. Like I need to have a safe spot. If I'm living in a situation where I'm not able to go back down to like a rest state chill, that's survival mode. And that's like deeply uncomfortable for me now that I can tell the difference between um, a regulated nervous system and a dysregulated nervous system. And it's fucking crazy how much of my life I lived in a chronically dysregulated state without ever knowing it. With like that was just normal for me. Like just living in a chaotic state and constantly going from one thing to the next. And like it was always like that in my household growing up. And now I realize how those subconscious patterns, those things that are, instilled in you in a young age, and then you're conditioned that way up until your life, like up until your adulthood, whatever. I didn't realize how that was affecting the choices I was making for my life. Like I literally created a life that I could only exist in a chronically dysregulated way because it was always like one thing to the next thing, always like so many things to take care of. Like I've always had tons of pets, and now I'm in a place where I can say no to more pets. I can say this is what's comfortable for me to have on my plate. And this is why it's so important for me to have boundaries and to like know myself and know what I can do and what I am not going to do. But even the jobs that I chose that would just exhaust me, that I've always been pretty much in caretaker roles. My first jobs were waitressing, where you're taking care of other people. And then I've done like work in group homes with developmentally disabled people. I worked in Alzheimer's care for a while, wildly dysregulating, very important work, but very emotionally taxing and very hard. And then I worked in healthcare, and now I work in veterinary medicine. And I've done this for like 10 years. And it's always been a kind of thing where you're pretty much always short-staffed. There's always a lot of patients. There's always a lot of like one thing to the next. You've got to think on your feet. You've got to be very flexible. I work at an incredible clinic now, but for the majority of my career, it has been no bathroom breaks. You're skipping your lunch. You're talking to people about money. They're pissed at you. You're like lots of emotional things. And for the majority of that time, I also did not have a great practice of taking care of my mental and emotional health throughout that. It was always like to the next, to the next, to the next thing. And because of that, I was very prone to burnout, and I was accustomed to burnout. I was like, you can't burn out somebody that's so fucking chronically dysregulated. It just, I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you're living in survival mode, if you're living in a state of constant chronic dysregulation, it doesn't have to be that way. And there is a different way of existing. And I didn't realize how, I want to cry, how much progress I've made on my journey and getting back to a point where I am taking really good care of myself, where I can regulate myself and all of this internal work I've done to cultivate peace and grace with myself, and like what an incredible relationship I've built with myself throughout this healing journey. Um, I've made so much progress. And it was also very interesting for me to look at how how there's still, I don't want to say it as like work to be done, because I don't want to look at myself that way anymore as like this constant project where there's like things wrong or things needing to be fixed. I guess it's more so like coming to a place of acceptance in myself of like, this is just where things are at right now. And maybe it's not wrong for it to be that way. Like maybe it's not wrong for me to be triggered by the things that I'm triggered by. Maybe I don't need to do all of this work to try to fix and change everything and erase these parts of myself that like ultimately make me who I am and ultimately have framed so many of my experiences in life and ultimately have inspired me to do things like this, like start a channel, sharing my healing journey and sharing my experiences and serving other people and their own experiences and on their own healing journey and path. And I was thinking about this uh, as I was sitting by a bridge on Friday night in Chicago, um, how living in survival mode, it does things to your body too. Like my digestion has been messed up since this experience. And I knew when I got home that this was going to take me probably 3 to 4 days to bounce back from. And literally today, I spent the majority of my time laying in bed because I just needed to rest. I needed to rest. And I think it's so important to, like, when you are having a mental or emotional uh, or a nervous system physiological disease, you know, it's so important to listen to your body and what it needs. And a lot of the time, my body and my brain need rest. I need to rest, and I need to not make myself feel like shit doing that. So that's what I did today. I laid in bed. I took a nap with my cats. I spent a lot of time petting my cats, hanging out with my cats. And and then when I finally did eat some, here's been my problem lately is over caffeinating and not eating anything. But I literally like could not get out of bed. So when I did finally eat something, my tummy started hurting. And so I went to the co-op and I got some juice. So if I can't eat anything, if I can't make myself eat anything, I'll just drink a bunch of juice because then you're still getting some nutrients and you don't have to like force yourself to eat something. I can pretty much always drink something. So that's been my experience lately, and that's something that I want to talk about is your nervous system and listening to your nervous system and noticing when you're feeling activated and just noticing it and not deeming it as good or bad, just totally being accepting of whatever experience is happening. It's so important to give yourself grace and not just like look at it as like what is it that triggered me so that I can avoid it in the future, but look at it as what is it that triggered me that I need to pay attention to right now? Is there a way that I can interact differently with this experience in the future? I don't know. I mean, for me, with the experience being triggered by this man is a strange man that's larger than me, that wants something from me, that might get angry if I don't give him what he wants. I don't know if I can, there's no amount of like, I'm not going to live my life in a box and just not go out into the world because I might encounter a man that might get angry with me. You know what I mean? Like, like that's wild to think of living that way. I'm not going to create a world where things are smaller and smaller and smaller to me so that I never experience getting triggered. The important thing for me is how I deal with the trigger and how I treat myself afterwards. So not having shame that this is something that still bothers me, not having shame that um, this is a pattern I've seen before. I used to, in the beginning of my healing journey, be like pissed at myself, like, why aren't you past this yet? And I don't feel that way now, which is, I think, an incredible progress. Really. Like, it's okay for me to not be past that. It's okay. I've experienced men that are fucking dangerous, men that will actually hurt you if you don't do what they fucking want you to do. So there's a genuine, like, reason for that fear. And really, the job of your nervous system is to survive, to keep you alive. So I used to get mad at my brain for being the way that it is. And now I can say, like, thank you. Like, I understand that you're just trying to keep me alive. But I think of the nervous system experiencing survival mode or like chronic dysregulation or a triggering event like this, like the immune system experiences allergies. Like an allergic reaction is really your body your immune system, your histamine response overreacting to something. And when the nervous system is triggered and you're in survival mode, you're overreacting to an experience that isn't necessarily happening right now. Like, were either of those men actually causing me danger? I think there was potential in either of the situations. There's a reason that I was triggered. But was I in a space where I couldn't walk away or anything like that? No, not really. Um, but it also like the brain is so interesting where it's like you are transported back in time to you're having a physical reaction that you've experienced before because this event is something that feels similar to an event that happened previously in your life that did cause you to be harmed, you know? And so it just takes patience, grace, and then whatever tools you have to soothe your nervous system are great. Had I been at my house, I would have, or in my town, I would have come home. I would have been chill. I would have done a grounding meditation. I would have taken a bath or gone into nature or something like that, being somewhere away from my house, I wasn't prepared. I fully was not prepared for like having to deal with something like that. I didn't even think about the possibility of it occurring. Honestly, I think I was scared. Like I was fixating on just getting through the airport to the point where I didn't think of like, and this is again me just being like privileged. Like I didn't think of like people on the street or like homeless people or things like that. Like I am not regularly encountered or by things like that. So, and I don't mean like anything about it. It just is something that I don't experience regularly. So, I don't know that I could have really planned or prepared. It really was like one of those maiden voyages where I was like, let's just see where this is at. And now we know where this is at. And I think it would be good for me to find a buddy to go to Peru with. I'm not saying it's not possible for me to go to Peru by myself. I could, but I think it's not really possible, or maybe rather, it's not fair for me to go to Peru and go on an extended trip like a week. I can't put my nervous system through something like that if I'm going to be dysregulated the whole time. If I'm going to have like one experience in the beginning that fucks the whole rest of the trip for me, it's not really cool. Like that's not going to be cool or chill for me, and I don't want to do that. Um, so I will need to find a buddy that wants to go with me. So that's what I wanted to talk about is I've been basically um, coming down from that the last few days and trying to think about how I could articulate this and put it into a video um, on regulating your nervous system, how important it is to regulate your nervous system and take care of your physical body, and then also take care of your like mental and emotional and energetic body as well. And to not be pissed at yourself for being triggered or dysregulated. Like your brain exists for a reason. Survival mode exists for a reason. Living in a constant state of survival is not good for your body and it does harm. And, you know, it's normal for your body to go back to a default if you lived that way for a long time. And it's normal to have triggers. I think everybody has triggers, but definitely people that have experienced trauma, had a really traumatic childhood, or have ever been told they have complex trauma, more so. More so, it's something you're probably going to have to pay attention to. And I did tons of shadow work earlier this year of getting to the root of a lot of my issues. But that doesn't mean that I'm never going to experience triggers again in my life. I'm still going to have to navigate these things. And so, really, navigating fear, uh, a main thing, so that's a block of the root chakra, is grounding. Grounding is so, so important. So, I really wish I had considered learning more about anchoring prior to this experience, but now I know how important that will be for me in the future in doing any type of travel, I think, but particularly solo travel. Having something to anchor to, whether it's an object or a smell or whatever, you can anchor yourself with a smell to like come back down and chill. Um, that and then literally touching grass, getting next to a tree. Nature is so good for regulating the nervous system. It's like the OG nervous system regulator. Which I still like. My friend invited me to go swimming today, and I was like, I should go, but I'm just so tired. I'm just so tired, and I have to honor that in my body when I need to rest. I'm also a projector, and that's my human design aura type. Projectors just need a lot of rest. Projectors just need a lot of rest. I came to show up for my healing circle meeting because it's so important to me to show up to these and answer your questions and share my experiences with you. But for the majority of the day, I've been doing nothing. I have been, I was like, I'm gonna be like one of my cats today, and I'm just gonna rest and chill. So basically, that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about today. Do you have any questions for me? Do you have any questions about your healing journey, or let's see if we have any questions in the chat. What about you? So yeah, my tum tum was hurting, so I got some blood orange, carrot, ginger kombucha, which I'm pretty surprised the. Oh, thank you, Alistair. I love seeing you here. Like, I love seeing you here. That's like one of the most fun things about doing this is like having a community of people that show up too or that are fully into it. It's so cool. Because sometimes, I don't know if you've ever created content or anything, but sometimes I get this thing in my mind that's like, why am I doing any of this? Does any of this even matter? But then I also get comments and messages from people every day that are like, thank you so much. Like, thank you so much for talking about this. So I'm gonna keep doing it. But sometimes I'm like, what if I just closed the whole thing down and just didn't? And I think everybody feels that way. I've seen lots of other content creators talk about that too, where they're just like, is any of this for anything? Yeah, I think so. I think so. And, you know, if you receive a vision, if you feel called to do something, there's a reason for that. This is so good. I'm surprised I didn't have you guys like the GT kombucha? They didn't have any at the co-op this time when I went. My own way from my own personal experiences. Yeah, our life is our message. Thank you so much. That's really good. It's really good. And I think it's cool to just get out there and share your story. You know, I learned so much from listening to other people's stories. I love listening to other people's stories. I think it's great. Even if you can't fully relate to it, it's so cool and interesting to hear what the other people's lives are like. You know what I mean? And I'm definitely one of those people that like if I'm driving around at night and people have their lights on and their curtains open, I want to see what your house looks like. Like, and I'm gonna look. I want to see like other people's setups and stuff, you know? Yeah, we definitely gain a lot from what other people share. And my first experiences with even telling any of my story to a public group was when I started going to AA. You know? And a lot of times I would share things and people would be like, wow, like that's really helpful. And I don't know. I don't know if it's just like my self being an enemy to myself for so long, but I always was just like, I don't know that anybody would really care what I have to say. And now I'm like so far down that cascade. Now I'm like, it's okay. Like there's some people where it's like it's not for you, you know? And then there's some people that are like, wow, I really need to hear that. Thank you. So I think that's great. This is so good. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it really depends too on how isolated you are. Like I notice I get like that a lot, like more down on myself if I've been by myself for a long time and not around other people. But then when I go out, For instance, I went out a couple of weeks ago and everybody was really nice to me. And I was like, oh my gosh, like people like me. They like me out here. Like everybody was being so nice. And I think we can be, you know, unconsciously really mean to ourselves without even realizing it. So yeah, I feel pretty good now. I feel like almost back to baseline. And you know what's really cool is I can get back there without totally numbing out, without like taking drugs or drinking alcohol, without self-sabotaging, totally fucking my life up. Yeah. Yeah, I used to struggle with bad self-talk too. Oh my God, this kombucha is gonna make me burp a lot now. Um, and I think it's still not always great, but it's a lot better than it used to be. My gosh, it's crazy how much things have changed and how much we just continue to grow if we keep focusing on our inner work. Made some really big progress, which is really cool. Coming to terms with acceptance. Yeah. And I really feel like I don't I don't really want the world to have to accommodate me that much at all. Like I don't want the world to have to be some type of way for me to be some type of way. Like I want to be how I want to be, chill, cool, regulated, peaceful, loving, kind, no matter what is happening in my external circumstances. And I used to really be like, I'm going to need you to do this or not do this for me to be able to be like nice to you. And now I feel like it's never about the other person or it's never really about the external circumstances. It's always about like how I react and respond, how I always have the choice. I always have the choice. I think the hard thing though is like being dysregulated. You go back to automatic reactions rather than being able to stop and ground and pause and respond. So again, that's like the ideal situation. In certain circumstances, we're still not there, but we're getting there. Yeah, a mix of both things. Yeah. And I was also thinking about how, like, if you're trying to, wait, yes, definitely. 100% that. 100% that. Like, people that are in your life should want to work on themselves as well. And they should care enough about the relationship to be curious and to want to understand, where you're coming from and what's triggering you and how they can help in those situations. But there's people that you meet too that are like not gonna work on themselves and that are not really caring or curious. They're more like presumptuous. Oh my God, I had an experience like that recently where I was seeing somebody that was like just extremely anxious and presumptuous and never would ask about things, just like totally assumed. And that's really frustrating to be in. And I think if you're with somebody that isn't going to do the work on themselves and they're like, you're going to have to just take me at face value that these are things that are never going to change, uh, then you have to decide, like, is this something that's for me or is this something that's not for me? And for me, I was like, no, that's not really for me. That's not really for me. Of somebody that's just going to assume that I'm out to get them all the time, and I'm like, you know, being extremely inconsiderate all the time. Like I'm really not. And I love people, and I love my people, and I want to do good. I want to be good to my people. Um, but I don't like when people are like, just assume the worst of you, you know? I took a class this year that was about, she said, the most important question that you'll ever answer in your life is, do I believe in a friendly universe or a hostile universe? And because whichever one you believe, you're right. If you believe in a friendly universe, then you believe that everything is always conspiring for you all the time. Everything's working for you all the time. So then you can know, even if you're experiencing obstacles or challenges or triggers, then it's all for something. Like it's all like perpetuating you towards your desire, your end goal. But if you believe in a hostile universe, you're going to believe that things are always like out to get you or out to take you down. The people around you are trying to hurt you all the time. And I think we can all like, it's not black and white necessarily. Like, I've done a lot of work too on being like, I believe in a friendly universe. I believe everything's working for me. But definitely in stressful situations, it can be like really, it takes a lot to be like, to not fall into. I think you have to constantly be, it's like anything, it's like any sort of spiritual work. You have to constantly be taking your own temperature and seeing and reflecting on that. Am I being the most loving that I can be right now? Yeah, definitely. Alistair, I always love your insight. Like really, you have really good insight into things. And yeah, I mean, it can be really easy to get into. I'm definitely prone to black and white thinking. I really have to work to see the third option or to see the gray area and be like, oh, it can be both things at the same time.